A single touch in the stillness of the living room unraveled the fragile boundaries between us, altering everything in a heartbeat. That moment remains etched in my mind with such clarity that it feels alive. The soft flicker of the lamp spilling golden light onto the hardwood floor. The distant murmur of the television blending with the hum of cicadas outside, and the weight of unspoken thoughts thickening the air, like a breath held too long. I'd always considered myself steady, the one who kept life's fragments in order, or so I believed. But it's odd how easily we cling to the illusion of control, ignoring the cracks until they break open beneath us. It was a typical evening in the house I had called home for years, a space that had grown too quiet in recent times. My friend Ethan, who had once been a constant presence, was out again, working late, or so he said, though his excuses were wearing thin. I had grown accustomed to his absences, telling myself he was simply busy, but the truth lingered beneath the surface. We had drifted apart. His visits had become infrequent, his laughter a distant memory, and the warmth that once filled our conversations had faded into a polite distance. That night, I sat at the kitchen table, a glass of wine trembling slightly in my hand. The deep, ruby liquid caught the glow of the overhead light as I stared out the window. Dusk had bled into night, and the sky was a bruised mix of purples and grays. My reflection stared back, a woman questioning the stillness she'd come to accept. Ethan's son, Noah, 19, a sophomore in college, had been staying with me for the summer. He was crashing here while Ethan dealt with whatever chaos kept him away. Noah and I had always gotten along, chatting easily over coffee and laughing about his dad's quirks. But lately, something had changed. He had become quieter, more distant, and I found myself missing the openness we once shared in a way I couldn't explain. His presence had started to fill the empty spaces Ethan left behind. One evening, Noah came home later than usual. The front door creaked open, and a faint scent of his cologne, crisp with a hint of cedar, drifted in, mixed with something earthier, like the night air clinging to his jacket. I glanced up from the couch, a book sprawled across my lap, as he stepped into the living room. The hallway light framed him, casting his face in shadow. His expression was a puzzle I couldn't solve. "Hey," he said, his voice softer than usual, a low note that stirred something inside me. "Hey," I replied, my throat tight for reasons I couldn't identify. "Long day?" He nodded, easing his bag off his shoulder with a quiet thud against the floor. "Yeah, just needed to clear my head." There was a heaviness in his words, a strain that lingered in the way he stood, shoulders slightly hunched, hands shoved deep in his pockets. His eyes met mine for a brief moment, dark and restless, before dropping to the floor. I wanted to ask what was weighing on him, to pull the truth from the guarded silence, but hesitation knotted in me. Instead, I offered a small smile, but he didn't return it. The air between us hummed with something I couldn't place. The following days blurred into a tapestry of unspoken words and fleeting glances. Ethan's visits became more infrequent, and when he did show up, his mind seemed elsewhere. his phone buzzing, his responses curt. His presence felt like a shadow passing through the house, unsteady, as though the script had been lost, and I couldn't find my lines. Ethan, once a steady anchor, had turned into a stranger I barely recognized. I'd never imagined I would feel adrift in a place I had built with my own hands. One evening, after Ethan left for another vague errand, I found Noah on the back porch. He sat on the steps, his broad frame slouched forward, staring out at the yard where darkness swallowed the skeletal outlines of trees. The air was cool, carrying the scent of damp earth and pine, and a shiver ran down my spine as I stepped outside. I sat beside him, the wood creaking faintly under my weight. For a moment, we sat in silence, the night pressing close. "Noah," I began, my voice a whisper, trembling with the need to reach him. "You okay?" He turned his head slowly, his eyes catching the dim glow from the kitchen window. Deep, shadowed pools that locked onto mine with an intensity that tightened my chest. His jaw clenched, and for a long moment he didn't speak, just studied me, as though searching for something I couldn't understand. "I don't know," he said finally, his voice rough-edged, rawness cutting through me. "Regret, maybe, or something heavier. Sometimes I feel like I don't fit here, like I'm out of sync." His words struck hard, sharp, and unexpected. I'd never thought he'd feel that way. Not in this house, not with me. My hand found his shoulder, the fabric of his jacket rough under my fingertips, and I felt the tension coiled within him, like a quiet storm brewing. "You fit here," I murmured, my voice soft but certain, willing him to believe it. "You always will." He let out a long, shaky breath, the sound rustling the stillness, blending with the faint chirp of distant crickets. "Thanks," he whispered, so quietly it almost slipped away. We stayed there side by side, the night wrapping us in its heavy embrace, the unspoken thickening the air like a fog. As summer wore on, Ethan's distance grew colder. He dropped by with more excuses, work, meetings, things I no longer believed. I caught glimpses of his phone lighting up with messages from someone named Mel, a shadow I couldn't shake. When I asked, he deflected. "Just a colleague," he said, his tone sharp, his eyes avoiding mine. But I wasn't blind. The late nights, the indifference, the way he barely looked at me, it all pointed to something I couldn't ignore. Ethan was slipping away, and I suspected he'd already gone somewhere I couldn't follow. Amidst this slow unraveling, Noah became my constant. His quiet presence, his unguarded moments, they held me together when everything else was falling apart. One night, with Ethan gone again, Noah and I sat down to dinner. The house felt vast without Ethan's distracted energy, but there was a strange comfort in it. No need to put on a smile or play a part. The kitchen table stretched between us, a simple meal of pasta and crusty bread glowing under the warm light of a single bulb. Noah's eyes softened as they met mine, reading me with that effortless understanding he had. "You all right?" he asked, his voice low, laced with concern that wrapped around me like a lifeline. I hesitated, my fork hovering over my plate, the weight of everything I'd buried pressing against my ribs. But this was Noah, He had always seen through me, and he deserved the truth. No, I admitted, my voice fragile, barely audible over the hum of the fridge. I think Ethan's seeing someone else. He froze, his fork clattering softly against his plate. For a moment, he just stared at me, his face a mask. Shock, maybe, or something fiercer. Then, without a word, he reached across the table, his hand finding mine. His fingers were warm, roughened from sketching or tossing a ball with friends, and they closed around mine with steady strength, grounding me. "You don't deserve that," he said, his voice firm, his eyes locking onto mine with a fire that startled me. "You're worth more than he'll ever see." His words sank deep, soothing wounds I had ignored too long. A shiver ran through me, comfort tangled with something sharper, something I couldn't name. I squeezed his hand back, my grip trembling as tears pricked behind my eyes, hot and insistent. "Thanks, Noah," I whispered, my voice cracking. "You don't know how much that means." That night, I lay in bed, the ceiling a blank slate for my restless thoughts. His words echoed, "You're worth more," and the way he looked at me, his gaze so full, so alive with something I couldn't unravel. It wasn't just gratitude, it was need. Noah had become my tether, my reason to keep going, and that truth pulsed through me, warm and unsteady. The weeks that followed pulled us deeper into something unspoken. We spent hours together, late nights on the porch, talking about everything and nothing. Our voices wove through the dark. He'd tell me about college, the pressure to fit in, the way he felt lost in a crowd that didn't see him. I'd share my own unraveling, the quiet ache of Ethan's absence, the loneliness that clung like damp fog. Our words bound us tighter, a thread of understanding drawing us closer. And then there were the moments, the way his eyes lingered on mine, dark and searching, the brush of his arm as we passed in the hall, the quiet smiles that felt like shared secrets. I knew it was dangerous. I knew I was stepping into something I couldn't control. But in my solitude, Noah was the only light breaking through. One evening, we sat on the couch, an old comedy flickering on the screen, its laugh track a distant hum against the stillness. The room was dim, the blue glow painting soft shadows across the walls, the air thick with the scent of popcorn we'd burned earlier. Noah stretched out beside me, his legs sprawled over the cushions, close enough that I could feel the warmth radiating from him. Steady, alive. His hand shifted, brushing mine where it rested on the armrest, and the contact sent a jolt through me. Small but electric, a spark that lingered under my skin. I glanced at him, our eyes meeting, and the air tightened. His gaze held mine, deep and unguarded, and in that suspended breath, the world tilted. The lines we'd always known blurred, and I couldn't look away. That touch stayed with me, vivid and unrelenting. I replayed it, the warmth of his skin, the way his fingers hesitated before pulling back, the quiet question in his eyes. It could have been nothing, a fleeting accident, but it burrowed into me, restless and alive. Ethan's distance grew colder. Brief visits, curt words, a life I was no longer part of, while Noah and I turned to each other. We were both adrift, both aching, and that shared hurt wove us into something I hadn't meant to let grow. One night at the dinner table, with Ethan gone again, the silence pressed down like a weight. The kitchen light buzzed faintly overhead, casting Noah's face in a mix of light and shadow. His jaw was taut, his eyes distant, tracing the grain of the wood. I watched him, guilt twisting with something deeper, something I refused to name. He suddenly spoke, his voice slicing through the silence, sharp and raw. "I don't understand. How can you just walk away like this? Doesn't he realize what he's letting slip through his fingers?" His question lingered in the air, unguarded and cutting. I had asked myself that same question too many times, but hearing it from him made the sting sharper. "I don't know," I whispered, my voice faint, lost in the quiet hum of the house. "Maybe I'm not enough anymore." His eyes locked onto mine, dark and intense, stealing my breath. "That's not true," he said firmly. "You're more than enough, more than he'll ever deserve. He's the one who's lost." His words hit me, filling a void I'd buried deep inside. They weren't just comforting, they were a reflection of a worth I'd forgotten. Without thinking, I reached out, my hand trembling as it found his. His skin was warm, and his fingers curled around mine instinctively. The touch sent a jolt of energy through me, sharp and undeniable. Neither of us pulled away. We sat there, hands entwined, the silence heavy, with a weight we couldn't put into words. My pulse raced, a frantic beat against my ribs, and I knew I should stop, should break the connection before it went any further, but I couldn't. I stood up abruptly, muttering something about dishes, my voice unsteady as I pulled away. The cold air rushed in where his warmth had been, but his eyes remained fixed on me as I moved to the sink. My hand shook as I scrubbed the plates, the hot water barely a burn against my skin. In the days that followed, the tension between us grew, unspoken but palpable. I'd catch him watching me, his gaze lingering, tracing my movements when he thought I wouldn't notice. Each time a warmth bloomed in my chest, a pull I couldn't shake. I knew it was risky, knew I should draw a line, but I had spent so long unseen that his attention felt like a lifeline. One evening, I was folding laundry in the living room, the repetitive motion distracting me from my restless thoughts. The front door creaked open, and I looked up, expecting to see Ethan's tired shuffle. Instead, it was Noah. His hair was tousled from the night breeze, his face marked by something heavy, maybe worry, maybe longing. "Hey," he said, his voice soft as he closed the door behind him, the click echoing in the quiet. "Hey," I replied, forcing casualness, but the undercurrent hummed. "You okay?" He hesitated, his boots scuffing the floor. His eyes flicked down before meeting mine, dark and searching. "Can we talk?" he asked. I nodded, setting the shirt aside and patting the couch beside me. He crossed the room and sat close, too close. His knee brushed mine as he settled in, and the heat of him seeped through the fabric of my jeans, a steady pulse against my skin. My breath hitched. We sat in silence for a moment, the air thick with everything unspoken, the room shrinking around us. "I don't know how to say this," he murmured, his voice low and rough, with something unguarded. "But I can't talk to anyone else. I've been feeling things I don't understand, things I don't know if I should feel." His words settled into me, heavy and sharp. My heart raced wildly against my chest. I wanted to ease him, to tell him it was okay, but I knew it wasn't that simple. I rested my hand on his shoulder, feeling the muscle beneath his shirt. He leaned into me, his head dipping until it brushed my collarbone. His hair was soft against my skin, and I felt his breath against my neck, slow and steady, alive. We stayed there, locked in a silence louder than any confession, the rise and fall of his chest synchronized with mine. It was too much, too close, but I couldn't pull away. Not yet. The tension between us thickened as days blurred into nights. I lived for our moments, the glances across the breakfast table, heavy with unspoken meaning, the way his fingers brushed mine when he handed me a mug, a fleeting spark, the quiet smiles that felt like promises. It was a dance, a slow circling around something we couldn't name, each step testing the edge. Ethan remained a ghost, oblivious to the storm brewing, too lost in his own world to see what was happening. One night, as I slipped into pajamas, a soft knock rattled my bedroom door. My heart leapt, a frantic skip against my ribs, and I knew it was Noah before my hand even touched the knob. I hesitated, my fingers trembling over the cool metal, but some reckless pull urged me forward. I opened the door, and there he stood, tall, shadowed, his eyes blazing with an intensity that made me shiver. "I can't stop thinking about you, about us," he whispered, his voice barely audible, thick with something desperate. The words hung there, charged and heavy, stealing the air from my lungs. I should have stopped it. I should have turned him away, but my feet moved aside, allowing him to step in. The door clicked shut softly, a final sound. The room shrank to just us. He reached out, his hand brushing my cheek, tentative and warm. His fingers trembled as they traced the curve of my jaw. I leaned into it, eyes fluttering shut, the heat of his touch filling me. He stepped closer, his breath warm against my skin. The space between us crackled, alive, electric, teetering on the edge. For a moment, we stood there, caught in the pull, everything else dissolving into the night. The days after that night lingered like a ghost. His touch, the way his fingers had grazed my cheek, the heat of his breath so close, replayed in my mind, vivid and relentless. Every glance we shared, every accidental brush of hands as we moved through the house, stoked the fire between us. I tried to bury it in chores, scrubbing counters until my knuckles ached, folding laundry until my hands cramped. But it was useless. Seeing him unraveled me. His presence was a constant pull I couldn't escape. Ethan's absence stretched on, his life a mystery I no longer cared to solve, leaving Noah and me to navigate this alone. One evening, with Ethan gone yet again, I wandered into the living room. Noah was sprawled across the couch, the remote loose in his hand, channels flickering past in a blur. The room was dim, the television's glow painting his face in shifting blues and grays. His jaw was sharp, his eyes deep and restless. He looked up, and something shifted in his gaze. It softened, deepening with an intensity that set my pulse racing. "Hey," he said, his voice low and warm, curling around me like smoke. "Couldn't sleep," I murmured, my voice catching with a shy edge I couldn't shake. "Thought I'd see if you were up." He smiled, a small, unguarded thing, and patted the cushion beside him. "Sit." I was about to put on a movie. "Might take your mind off things." I hesitated, the air buzzing between us, but his eyes held a quiet safety I couldn't resist. I sank onto the couch, the cushion dipping as he shifted closer. His arm brushed mine, and the heat of him was immediate, a steady warmth that filled the space. My breath hitched as I settled in. The movie started, an old comedy with a faint laugh track, but I barely heard it. My eyes drifted to him, tracing the way the light danced across his features, the furrow of his brow as he focused, the faint curve of his lips when something amused him. He had grown so much, broad shoulders, steady hands, a quiet strength. And yet, there was still that kid I had known, layered beneath, someone new, someone more. It was dizzying, exhilarating, a pull I couldn't untangle. As the movie played, his hand moved slowly, deliberately, until it rested over mine on the cushion. His fingers threaded through mine, warm and firm, and the contact sent a shiver racing up my spine. I didn't pull away. Instead, I let myself sink into it. My heart pounded as his thumb traced soft, small circles against my skin. The room faded. The movie, the walls, the world, until it was just us. The rhythm of his touch syncing with my pulse. I knew I should stop. I should break the spell. But I was too far gone, drowning in the warmth of being wanted, of being seen. He turned his face close, his eyes dark with something raw, something unspoken. The air thickened, heavy with need, and a tremor ran through me. "I can't stop thinking about you, about us," he murmured, his voice a whisper that vibrated through me. My breath caught, my chest tight with longing and fear. "Noah," I whispered, my voice shaking, unsteady. "We can't. This isn't—" But he leaned closer, his breath brushing my skin, warm and alive, and my words dissolved. The space between us shrank to nothing. His presence overwhelmed me, his scent, his heat, the quiet intensity of his gaze. I felt myself give in, not to anything more, but to the pull, the desperate need to be near him, to hold on to this moment before it slipped away.